Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that's right, it's your buddy, your pal, your friend, Rooster, right back here with another video for all my Gamecock fans. Lenor Sellers, Heisman Trophy winner. How does that sound? Second Heisman Trophy winner in the history of South Carolina. Coming this season, 2025-2026 season, Lenor Sellers winning the Heisman. But before we get into that, I would like to say congratulations to Amari Thomas for committing to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Welcome to the family, buddy. Glad to have you aboard. Now, waiting on Darius Gray, 5-star offensive lineman, coming in 2 weeks. He'll make his announcement. Heard a lot of great things about him being a Gamecock. Have been hearing that for a few weeks. I think Gamecocks have a good shot at him unless somebody comes in and throws him $900,000 Texas Tech. I'm talking about you. No, anyway. In all seriousness, I did want to talk about Lenor Sellers. There has been, here and there, people are talking Lenor has a chance to win the Heisman and stuff like that. Well, how do we help Lenor get to that number? All the talk about the offensive line, 44 sacks, 120 something one or something like that in giving up sacks the past 2 years. So the offensive line needs to get better. And that's a lot of the conversation. A lot of people talk about, and they put it all on the offensive line. Now, we've heard coaches, including Shane Beamer, mention it's not all on the offensive line. Sometimes there's missed blocks by running backs. Sometimes there's missed blocks by tight ends that actually give up these sacks. Sometimes just the defense plays really good and it's a coverage sack. And every once in a while, people forget to add in the point that your receivers have to get separation. That tends to kind of hurt your quarterback if your wide receivers aren't getting separation. Well, we know in 2023, we know what happened, right? At least us Gamecock fans. The outside world don't really care, and they're never going to talk about it. The understanding the fact of how many injuries South Carolina had on their offensive line. Guys in, guys out. 1 week they're in, the next week they're out. You got two freshmen on the offensive line in Big Tree. Nothing against Big Tree or Trayvon Ball, but they were true freshmen. And they were kind of thrown into the fire, Last year, Josiah Thompson, another true freshman, best of the best at left tackle that we had on the team. But the problem was he was a true freshman too. And we know with freshmen, there's a big learning curve. And people tend to forget that last year was Lanorris Sellers' first year as the starting quarterback and taking over. We hear all this hype around these quarterbacks that are taking over these teams this year, but until you're put under fire and you're the man, you don't know when the lights come on if these kids freeze in pressure situations. So Lenor's had a learning curve too, getting rid of the football. We saw him make some mistakes with fumbles last year. Alabama won that crazy fumble where he's got the ball up and hits his helmet, and he was somewhere trapped between throwing the ball and I don't know what he was trying to do. Honestly, I remember in that game seeing that fumble, and I saw a picture of it, and it reminded me the other day of that. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's just, you're in one of those positions, you just don't know what to do. It's tuck the ball, take the sack, live for another down. But those type things can't happen, and you learn from those. And he did have a habit of kind of holding the ball out. And every defensive lineman, every linebacker, I think it was Sean Murphy. I was listening to his interview. Someone asked him a question about that, and he's like, well, we're trying to punch the ball out. That's what we're working on in practice. What are you doing in practice? We're trying to punch the ball out. And there was a picture floating around, and I didn't get it at the time, and I haven't been able to find it. Kind of in a practice thing, and you saw Sean Murphy with his handball up trying to do the peanut punch. But anyway, with Lenor, it's a big learning curve. Now, I'm not going to beat the kid up because there was a lot of football games South Carolina wasn't winning without him last year. We saw kind of it affected the team in the LSU game when he went out. I mean, the kid had just run like a 75-yard touchdown. And the tackle really didn't look that bad, but it just got him just right, and he said himself in the interview that he heard it his ankle kind of popped at the time it happened, and then he was out for the Akron game. And was unable to play, so he lost a lot of valuable snaps there. His numbers would have been better had he been able to play in that game. Now, would he have played the full game against Akron? No. But he'd probably at least been in there for half the game, getting valuable snaps, getting some more yardage. But, it is what it is. You can't go back and change what happened last year. You can only learn and move forward this year. So, we got Virginia Tech coming up. I've been on X, going back and forth with some Virginia Tech fans, having a blast. Anyway, they're trying to trash talk. I don't know how Virginia Tech trash talks, but I've been having fun with them, cutting up, laughing, joking. I don't think anyone's really taking it all that serious. They're not like, SEC fans get on there and start jabbing each other. If it's a Tater fan, we can get hot and heavy pretty quick. But, with the Virginia Tech fans, it's kind of fun to just jab back and forth because it's Beamer versus Beamer and all that stuff that goes on. But I did want to kind of go through, first games can always be tricky. We saw it last year with Old Dominion. Now, that was Lenor Sellers' very first game of being the starting quarterback. We know 2023, 2024, he threw 4 passes, didn't get a lot of action at all. But it was 100% completion rate, 86 yards and 2 touchdowns on 4 passes. And I think that's what kind of had the South Carolina fans excited and smiling a little bit. There was even reports, people were saying, I forgot who had the report. I'd like to give him credit for it, but I think it was Steve Tannehill said in an interview that Cam Ward was supposed to wanted to come to South Carolina, was asking him $1.5 million or something to come to South Carolina. South Carolina said, no, we got our guy, Lenor Sellers. And Lanorris is getting a lot of hype, and he is one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC this year, and he deserves that. I mean, he earned that on the field. I mean, without Lenor Sellers' run in the Clemson game, we probably don't win that. Without Lenor Sellers, we're not winning Missouri. Defense played great and created a lot of turnovers, and they did help win a lot of football games. But without Lenor Sellers, you're not winning those games. Some of the runs he's made, I think someone said he had like 13 broken tackles or something like that against Clemson, some kind of record in a single game for last year. Broken tackles on the year. He had more broken tackles than Ashton Gentry. I think I heard that somewhere else too. I didn't look these stats up. It really wasn't worthy at that time. But it's kind of cool when you hear things like that. But now we do know he broke a bunch of tackles and made some amazing plays last year. And, you can talk about his turnovers, but then you look at his amazing plays. Does one make up for the other? Probably not. If you ask him, he probably has thought more about the turnovers and how to make that better than he ever thought about spinning out a guy's arms or running through tackles and doing all that stuff. Because, we hear Lenore's talk. He's calm. He's cool. He's not cocky. He's not arrogant like some other quarterbacks that's running around the SEC right now talking about winning national championships when they went 6-6 last year. I ain't gonna call no name, Diego Pavia, but you said you had us circled on your calendar, buddy. We got you circled now. I promise you. Kind of mopped the floor with your ass last year, but hey. Short memory, right? Got to have a short memory as a quarterback. But talk a little bit about Lanorris. His first game wasn't great, like we talked about with Old Dominion. 10-23. He was only 43% passing, only 114 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. South Carolina was really lucky to walk away with a win in that game if it wasn't for that late turnover. Kentucky, he picked it up a lot better, but the defense also was amazing in Kentucky. Had Kentucky against the ropes early with a 31-6 win, but he was 10-14, but he was 71% and 166 yards with 2 touchdowns. Had a interception in that game. Versus LSU, he was just getting cranked up when he got injured. He was 9-16, 56% for 113, and he had the 1 interception, but he made up for that game in his rushing, that's for sure. Ole Miss, not his best game, but it was getting to be, this is where he was picking up. He was 20 of 32. He was actually throwing the ball around 62%. But, he'd come off of that week off, and he was kind of, I don't know, it just seemed rusty, but he was hurt. You know what I mean? He wasn't throwing the ball great. A little bit high, which you can expect. Like, you get an ankle injury and you're not really wanting to plant, you can expect balls to be overthrown or sometimes out of reach of the wide receiver just because you can't plant your feet the way you want to and drive the ball. You know what I mean? And then, I don't know. I think I just had a bad feeling that morning of that Ole Miss game. It just seemed flat to me. It seemed like the stadium was flat. I think I don't know. It was just a weird. Even watching it on TV, I wasn't there, but it just like the air didn't even feel right for South Carolina. And then they kind of came back and went on the road to Alabama, which everyone thought we were going to get destroyed. I think we were like a 20-point underdog, 21-point underdog to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And he had an amazing game. 23 of 31, 74% pass, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but the fumbles. And a lot of people forget there was plays there to be made that South Carolina could have made. And it wasn't all on Lenor Sellers while we lost that football game. When we went down there to kick that field goal, the missed field goal, we got farther into Alabama territory and then had a bad play. Had a penalty. We backed our kicker up and then had to get a couple yards for it to even make that somewhat of a chance of a field goal. That was something South Carolina's really got to get over, getting across the 50 and then having stupid mistakes that back us up. Or some play calls that make us scratch our head. Is like we're moving forward and all of a sudden now we're calling plays that are behind the line of scrimmage and then they get sniffed out and we lose yards. So that's one of the things I hope Mike Shula kind of fixes that. I know there was some conversation. Offense is going to simplify a little bit. Now, what does simplify mean? Is that the verbiage? Is it the blocking schemes? Is it just the schemes overall on offense? But I guess he's trying to make it more simple so everyone is understanding and there's not miscommunication. And when you get a lot of new guys and you have a lot of freshman wide receivers with a lot of talent, I mean, we see Donovan Murphy out there making one-hand grabs in practice today. I know it's against air and I talk a lot of crap. And I gave just being a smartass on Twitter today about Lanorris winning the Heisman. Look how he's throwing the ball. Look how he was pitching the ball off to Faison. Look how he handed the ball out. Look at that ball handling skills. Handing the ball off and doing those little pitches. Just being a complete smartass because every team's done this. And just trying to convince everybody in the world how great their team's going to be because their quarterback can throw it 20 yards against no DB and no pressure in his face. All that shit changes when you spot the ball, as Billy Napier would say. But overall, it wasn't a horrible game against Alabama for Lanorris. It's just circumstances didn't work out for South Carolina to win that football game. Oklahoma, they go out there, defense fires it all, start scoring points, but Lanorris wasn't bad in that game either. 16 to 24, 66%, almost 67%, 175 yards, 1 touchdown. He didn't have to do a lot, and I think they backed the offense down. I remember myself and a lot of Gamecock fans were very upset in the second half of that game because it's almost they went like to this not to lose, not aggressive style offense, which I can understand. Not wanting to give up mistakes and let Oklahoma kind of get back in the game, but I also don't understand it. When you do that, you're not really practicing your offense anymore. These are the times where you have to run your offense, and you can't let off the gas and get into doing something different because it throws the whole offense off rhythm, you know. I'm no offensive coordinator, but I know when these guys get in a good rhythm of calling plays and the players get in a good rhythm, I play ball. Like if you're just running and you're running and you're running and you're starting to shove it down people's throat in the fourth quarter, you just keep pounding it and pounding it and pounding it. And the offensive linemen start getting really lathered up at that time, and they love that kind of stuff, man. They love pushing people's face in the dirt. But anyway, they took care of Oklahoma. Like I said, wasn't his most spectacular game because they really just didn't do nothing in the second half with the play calls. Texas A&M came in at the time, was leading the SEC, highly ranked football team. South Carolina, it was 20-20 at halftime. It was a battle. But second half, South Carolina came out and just walked away from them. You know what I mean? Lanorris wasn't really asked to do a ton in that game. He had 13 of 27. Not a great completion percentage, had 244 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he had some big plays in that game, but that wasn't his best game either. But he progressively got better. So I think that's the excitement now, is how much better is he going to be this year when you start looking at where he started last year and where he finished last year. Because after the Texas A&M game, he went off. Everything was, I think, maybe Clemson, but we know Clemson's defense was supposedly one of the best in the country. It's still one of the best in the country. They didn't really lose a lot. But Vanderbilt, he was 14 to 20, 70%, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. Missouri, 34. We won that game 34-30, had to come back. He was 21 to 30 for 70% for 353 yards. That's what I'm saying. Without Lenor Sellers, you don't come back and beat Missouri. You don't beat Missouri. Wofford had 23 of 27, 85%, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns. But we're talking about Wofford, so 1 interception in that game. And then Clemson we brought up. Without him making that play, that run into the end zone, we're not winning that football game. He was 13 to 21 for 164 yards, like a 60%, 61% passer. Had an interception in that. Didn't throw for a touchdown, but he ran for him. Illinois 24-34 is 70%, 260 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had a different game plan, Illinois did. They didn't really try to pressure him or bring a lot of people for him to escape from tackles and put big runs on him. They tried to hold him a little bit in the pocket. And I think South Carolina overplayed that in the fact of it looked like Lanorris was trying to be a pocket plaster. And I don't know if that was the game plan. Maybe this was you want to think they wanted to go out and win the bowl game, no doubt. But you also think maybe they were trying to experiment with him on getting him more comfortable throwing the football and all that stuff. You never know. But I would think South Carolina would have wanted to win that football game because that would have gave you 10 wins on the season, and I just don't see anybody just doing something to lose. And Illinois came with a good game plan against him. Now, if you can run the football, teams won't be able to do that to you. So offensive line is going to have to be very important on running the football. But we talked about it overall season last year. He played in 12 games. He started 12 games, 196 completions on 299, basically 300 attempts. He was 65.6%. That's not horrible over a season. 2,534 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Got to cut down those interceptions right there. And he had 7 rushing touchdowns, had 674 yards rushing, as long as 75. Of course, that was against LSU before he got hurt. Excuse me for just a second, y'all. But through his career, he's 200 completions on 303. He's 66% passer. That's not going to change because he was 4 for 4 in 23-24, 2,620 yards. He's got 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on his career. But Yeah, if he's going to be in the Heisman conversation, it ain't just Lenor Sellers that has to do much better and be much improved this year. The running game's going to have to be improved. The offensive line's definitely going to have to get improved. And the wide receivers have to get separation. They have to catch the ball. Now, one thing I would like to see, and I didn't see last year, is getting Nick Harbor in a position where he can run after the catch. A lot of balls that he caught last year were kind of back-shouldered or stop and catch, or the one catch at Alabama where he goes up and goes over the top and catches the ball for the touchdown in the end zone to give us a shot at tying that game and going into overtime. But the wide receivers are going to have to be much better. They're going to have to create space and give him windows and give him places to throw the football. Speed up a little bit on getting the ball out. Some routes that get him some early, easy catches and some yards and get him into a rhythm. Is something I think you really have to see. Tight end room, losing Josh Simon. I think Michael Smith, plenty athletic enough to take that. We'll see how Dingle does. This coming in from Kentucky. Brady Hunt can catch the football. He ain't been around college football as a tight end this long without being able to at least catch. He can block. Mo Brown, where do they put him? Is he going to be like an end-of-the-line tight end? Is he sort of like a fullback? You'll see him come in tight end and maybe some. Remember Hayden Hurst? They kind of would line him up behind the offensive line up close or whatever. He'd help as a blocker. And every once in a while catch a little shovel pass or something like that, and let him have basically a run. They'll count it as passing, but just little things like that I think you'll see with Mo Brown. Great athlete, been working out. But these are the type of things that's really going to have to, the Gamecocks are going to have to do offensively if you really want to talk about Lenor Sellers being in the Heisman chase. Because between his legs and his throwing, I don't see Lenor Sellers coming out being some 4,000, 4,500 yard passer. But his numbers are going to have to be that between rushing and passing. And his touchdowns are going to have to go up. Throwing. Now, what South Carolina does on offense, I don't know. They may come out and just, especially if Faison gets, I think he's going to get eligible. When they're going to let him get eligible, I don't know. But I think South Carolina, especially with the beef they got now, these are bigger guys, 320-pound average offensive line. No matter how you shake that around, who's where. People talk about who you want to see where. Trayvon Ball may be a starter. Sounds like maybe at right guard. You got Sharp that came in from Wake Forest. Looks like Bo Stanley, definitely after I listened to his interview the other day, is the center. He's a big kid. A little beefier. Tree Babalati, you hear a lot about him maybe getting a start. Or this big tree there to play tackle. If one of the tackles is not doing what they're supposed to do you plug and play him in there? I know the kid wants to play. There's a lot of Gamecocks that aren't that happy with Case and Henry, but Henry's been around a while. Maybe he's gotten better. Maybe he's healthy. He did go through a lot of injury stuff. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But if you legit want to put Lenor Sellers in the Heisman conversation, a lot of South Carolina's offense around him, the weapons around him, the offensive line are all going to have to help. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for your buddy Rooster. Make comments. All that stuff helps me build my channel back up. And I love all you guys and hope you have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. And we'll holler at you later. Peace.